Welcome to first episode of distance learning series for Art of Animation course. This week we will make a cutout puppet for stop motion animation and then we will animate the puppet. For this application we will need some materials and tools. First we need a device with internet connection to download a drawing and a screen attached to trace the outlines of this drawing. We will use transparent sheets and a marker to trace the outlines of the model. We also need a scissor to cut the puppet from transparent sheet. For the joints of the puppet, we will need something to put holes. Here we will use screwdriver and tip of the scissor. To attach the parts of the puppet, we will use poppers used in tailoring. Last but not least, we will use smartphone and a stop motion application to take pictures and create the movie. I use Stop Motion Studio app for this application. There will be a few steps of this application. First, we will need a model. You can download a model from internet or draw from scratch. Here I will copy a concept drawing from internet. If you choose this method, search for concept drawings with side view. I found this model and opened the graphic file on my tablet. You can use your phone, tablet, laptop or desktop computer. After opening the file, we fix the transparent sheet on our screen. We can use tape or other tools here. Next, we will trace the outlines of the character with the marker. It is possible to paint the character afterwards, but for this small application, I will just trace the outlines. In order to copy the character as a puppet, we need to trace parts of the model, not the whole of it. Here we need to consider which parts will be movable, which size of these parts will be the pivot points. We will need to draw and cut a bit longer than the endpoints of a joint. These extra parts will overlap and we will put our poppers on these. We will draw and cut head, arms, torso and legs. Arms and legs will be drawn twice, for left and right. And also arms and legs will have upper and lower parts. So there will be 4 arm parts and 4 leg parts. Here I will not make ankle and wrist joints. But if you want to animate foot and hands, you can add those parts to your drawings list. Again, I will make a fixed torso. It is possible to divide torso to chest and hip parts. Let's start tracing the parts. First part will be the head. I'm putting the transparent sheet on top of the screen. Now I trace the outlines of the head. As you see, I added the extra part for the joint at the bottom of the head. After doing that, you can trace the details of the model. Head part is done. Now I will trace the torso. I'm drawing the extra part on top of the leg for joint. Torso is finished. Now I will draw the arm. The drawing I chose has the arm separate from the body. Sometimes concept drawings have arms attached to the body. In that case, we need to trace it from there. Here I will trace upper part of the arm 2 times. And I will continue with tracing forearm twice. Around the elbow, I trace longer considering the need for overlapping two parts and give some extra. Now I will trace the second copy. I finished the upper part. Now I am switching to forearm with fixed hands. Arms are done. Let's start tracing the legs. Same principles can be applied to legs. We will have four parts at the end. Again, we don't forget overlapping hip and knee joints and give extra at those areas. Now we will draw the legs. With finishing the legs, tracing step is done. Next, we will cut and attach these parts. While cutting the parts, we need to be patient. Now I will cut the corners of the parts. After finishing cutting step, I am overviewing the model and planning where to put the holes. Holes will be at the center of joints. We also call these pivot points. Next step is piercing the holes. I am starting with forearm. I am using scissors tip to pierce and then screwdriver for enlarging the hole. If you damage the transparent sheet at this point, you can use a transparent tape to strengthen and fix it. After piercing ankle part of the forearm, I will do the same to the upper part of the arm. Now I can put these two arms together. I am using the popper to attach these. If there are some burrs around the hole, cut those with scissor or utility knife. Now the joint is ready and moving. Let's do this to all parts. We continue with the other arm. If your poppers pop out when you move the joint, don't forget to cut the burrs. Both arms are ready. I will continue with legs. First, I will pierce the knee holes. Now I am attaching the poppers to knees and combining two parts of the legs. Legs are combined. Next we will pierce the neck hole to the head part. We need to pierce the neck hole to the torso too. I'm combining head and torso. Final stage is to assemble the body with torso, arm and legs parts. First I am piercing the shoulder hole. I will attach both arms to this hole for simplicity. I am combining the arms at torso hole with popper. Last step here is to add legs. I will drill the holes at hip and legs. With the legs done, the model is ready to animate. At this step, I will use Stop Motion Studio app, a smartphone-based application. You can find free version of it both for iOS and Android platforms. Of course, it is possible to use a DSLR camera and computer software, but I think the easiest way for any skill level is to use a smartphone app for this step. Keep in mind that frame per second value of the project is vital for the smoothness and realism of the final animation. We should never drop below 15 frames per second. For a small amateur project, you can use 20. More than 24 is ideal, but considering the video sharing platforms, you can use 30. At these high FPS values, the movement of the parts should be very small between frames. Imagine how fast a leg or arm moves in reality. If it is 1 second, then you should translate this duration to how much frames it needs, according to your project's frame per second value. So if your FPS is 20, then a 1 second movement should happen in 20 frames, from the start position to end position of the part. While we use Stop Motion Studio application, there is a feature called onion skinning. Onion skinning gives us the possibility to see the photos we took previously together with the current one. With this option, we can see how much difference is present between two photos. We can easily compare the photos and decide how far we should move the body parts. So get familiar with it before starting to shoot the frames. If you need, there is a zoom functionality of Stop Motion Studio app. So you can easily zoom in to focus only to the needed part of the stage. In Settings menu, default FPS value is 5. Change this to the target FPS value of your project. We should be over 15 as I said before. Timing of movements is the key to better animation. In this animation, my character will look down to the apple and he will take it to his hand. I'm dividing the movements to parts. First part will be the head movement. The head will move down in 5 frames. He will stay looking to apple again for 5 frames. He will lean down for 10 frames and hold the apple, and he will stand back in 10 frames. He will look to the apple at his hand for 5 to 10 frames. That's the plan. Now we will start to taking photos. I start Stop Motion Studio app. I choose new move option. In settings, I change FPS value to 20. After that, I click camera button. In shooting mode, I move the onion skinning up to the middle point. With this, current frame will be half transparent over previous frames. I'm taking the first picture now. Thanks to onion skinning, I can still see previous frame as you see. Before taking the second picture, I'm moving the head a bit down. I'm continuing to move the head down between shots. After finishing the head movement, I am taking 5 more pictures while character is standing still. Now he will start leaning down for 10 frames. I am pulling his hand down while holding leg joints to create the movement. Here the movement happens in small increments. In first frames the movement was very small, but we can move more after a few frames, because the body beated the inertia at the starting position. We start slow, move faster and stop slowly. This animation principle is called slow in, slow out or ease in, ease out. Now he will pick up the apple in 10 frames. After a while, he can start bending his arm to his body. And finally, he will stand back and inspect the apple a bit. I'm taking a few shots to finish the animation here. Shooting part is done. Let's preview the result now. If there are problems, take note and correct those with a second take. Some parts may need more frames and some less frames. Correct timing is the primary principle in animation. You can try picking up an object from the ground at home and watch your own movement for realistic timing values. Then you can apply your findings to your animation. In this first take, my camera is moving because I didn't fix it. After fixing the camera, this is the final animation I had. Our short animation sequence is over. Thank you all for joining me. Looking forward to see you in the next one.